Aloha, everyone. Michelle Melendez with Blossom Inner Wellness and StandTogetherHawaii.com. And I first just want to say thank you to everybody who has gone to that site, StandTogetherHawaii.com, who has contacted our state representatives, our state senators, who has asked the Attorney General to look into these fires in Maui. Thank you so much. There's 4 actions that we're taking, and that's contact these state representatives, tell them that the governor needs to put back in place the First Amendment. The First Amendment is being violated in Lahaina, and also to have the boot them out, boot the governor, boot Maui mayor, and boot the police chief, because what they're doing is absolutely against the people. So I just want to say thank you for that. If you have commented on our site, on the emails, I'm sorry, on the YouTube channel, there's over 4,000 comments. I can't get to everybody, so that's why I'm doing more videos to just try to answer questions this way as best as I can. So much mahalo for helping spread the word. Today I'm really excited because I'm talking to 30-year fire captain Matt Dankin, and he's got so much information to share. I want to tell you, we're going to do this video in 2 parts. The first part is going to be on YouTube. We're going to share some stuff, but then I am moving this interview to Rumble because he's going to be sharing some information about what you can do to keep yourself safe, to literally get out of the system that has there's a lot of stuff we're going to be sharing, so I don't want to share too much here on YouTube, but please check out the Rumble. The rest of this video will be at Rumble, where we are not censored and we can speak freely. So Matt, Captain Matt, I'm just so excited. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So first, let's talk about your experience. You've been a fire captain for 30 years. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I started, well, I had total, I hate using the term 33, but I total 33 years in the
33.
fire service. Started right out of high school when I was 18 years old. Worked for what's now Cal Fire in the summertime, which is the California Department of Forestry. And I was a volunteer, and then I got hired full-time with the department, where I actually worked there for 30 years. I retired out in 2018. So that's where I did 30 years there.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and during
So,
my career, I traveled all over the state going on these vegetation fires, large at the time, 30,000, 50,000 acre vegetation fires. But they were nowhere as big as the ones over the last 5 or 6 years that we've seen around the state. But at the time, they were always record-breaking vegetation fires. So I've been on a lot of what we call strike teams, where we go out and providing mutual aid all around the state. So I've seen what normal wildland fires look like and the destruction that they do when I say normal. So from doing it for over 30 years.
wow. That's amazing. So you are quite the expert when it comes to fires. And what did you think well, first, what was the first fire that you saw that you were like questioning, going, whoa, this is different?
The first fire was right here in my backyard. It was the Tubbs fire. And I was going to bed. It was about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and something came on the news of a fire in Calistoga. And that's where I live, up on the side of a mountain. And so I listened to the news, and there was a fire, and it was getting bigger and bigger, and the winds started picking up. And I was up all night. I have a radio where I have the EMS, fire, police, all on this ham radio, and I was listening, and I listened to the 3 counties around me all on fire, with over 70 fires in the 3 counties connected to me. And it was unbelievable. This fire started out in Calistoga, this small little town in the wine country, and went over the hills over into a city called Santa Rosa, crossed Highway 101, and burned down a Kmart building, I believe. And it was just unbelievable, the winds, the amount of fires that were there. And I knew at the time, deep in my gut, this wasn't right, because throughout my career, we've had a lot of very windy periods over the last 30 plus years, and nothing like the amount of fires we had here. I mean, in Lake County, they were having to rescue people by boat into Clear Lake. I mean, it was unbelievable what I was hearing over the radio, and so many people trapped and trees down, and it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced listening to it. So that was the first time, and then the aftermath of that, where we had neighborhoods where they were burned down to powder. You couldn't tell where the toilet was. A porcelain
Yep.
toilet was gone. The countertops were gone. All the fires that I've been to in the past, you could always tell where the kitchen had been or the bathrooms were, because there was the shell of the oven and the stove were there. The toilets were still there. But after the Tubbs fire, none of that. It was down to nothing. But while at the same time, most of the trees were still up. So that was it was unbelievable. So I knew at that point that it was not natural.
So when you started looking into this, what did you discover around, I mean, how can a wildfire turn a toilet to ash? Like turn a stove to ash? That just doesn't make sense. And
Yeah,
then
well,
leave the trees.
right. Well, so I got together with a friend of mine named John Lord. He was also a retired fire captain. At the time, I was actually still working, so I wanted to be a little bit careful. I had a few months left before I retired. That was in 2017, and I got a hold of a guy named Jamie Lee of A Plain Truth, who used to put out a ton, and he was kind of in the forefront of all this about directed energy weapons, and kind of brought us in. And when we started studying directed energy weapons, and we realized that would explain what we were seeing. Basically like a microwave, the way a microwave heats things up. If you stick metal in the microwave, it's going to have a much greater, a more explosive effect than a pile of twigs. Mm-hmm. And that's what this looked like. That's what we were seeing. And I was still working, and I had a lot going on, and I was trying to protect my property, and it was kind of a multiple week-long deal. So I didn't really get a chance to look and investigate the aftermath of that, because of being weeks here stuck at my house, and then working, back at work at the fire department when I left. So I never really did a thorough investigation. But it was the following year in 2018, when in the fall of 2018, that's when the campfire in Paradise took place. And my friend John and I got together and went up there, and we started doing our own investigation. And it was unbelievable what we found. So.
Yeah, I'm from Paradise. I mean, I'm from Chico, which my mom's 30 minutes away from Paradise. So I was up there that Christmas, and that was my second job, was up in Paradise. And for those of you who don't know, it's a beautiful mountain town with these amazing redwoods. It's just gorgeous. And driving around the neighborhoods was so weird, because it was just the houses that were gone. The white picket fence was there. The trees were there. And it was just like this white, like you're saying, white ash. It looked very weird. And yeah, and then the stories of people escaping, saying they were literally being chased by the fire, and that's another thing.
One thing that we noticed was, I think they may have realized they overplayed their hand with the Tubbs fire, and I think they scaled back to make it look more natural, because you could tell where the kitchen was, and the bathrooms were, and there were toilets there, and so it looked more natural. Although, in one sense, it looked more natural. There wasn't total down to powder like it was in the Tubbs fire, but it was totally unnatural in the sense that up there you'd have these neighborhoods, I guess, and they would be separated by forest, and then to another neighborhood. And that neighborhood would be devastated to the point where there were trailer parks where they were on I-beams, and the I-beams were melted. So they're resting on I-beams, which is heavy metal, and at the bottom of these trailers, and they were completely melted. Heat goes up. That's where you're going to get the least amount of heat. That's usually the safest place, and they were completely melted. So, and then the forest would be okay, it would still be standing there, and then the next community completely devastated again, not down to powder, but gone, everything gone. And we saw multiple things up there. We saw there was that one school, I'm not sure if it was a elementary school, or I forget, that one of the main drags through town. It was as you're going up there on the right hand side. That looked like a nuclear bomb went off. and there was a vault, an electrical vault there, standing there by itself with no fire damage to it. And we're there with, I don't know if you know, Deborah Tavares and her husband came with us on that trip, and Deborah Tavares' husband, because she's a whistleblower, opened this vault, and there was a melted smart meter inside this vault. So it happened, it melted from an interior, from something that happened interior, where a pulsation or something. It did not happen from exterior heat. There was another so not too far away from this electrical fault at this school that we saw a large tree, probably 3.5 to 4 foot diameter tree. We've got photos of this too, in the middle of the asphalt, the blacktop, the playground. And so there was nothing around it. It was paved all the way around it, like blacktop playground all the way around it. It had burned on the inside. It was completely burned. The fire department had come through and cut it, and it looked like a fire pit because the bark was still all the way around the outside, but it was all the way burned in the middle. So these trees were burning from the inside out. And this was not unusual. There were that was all over up there in Paradise. The trees were burned from the inside out, and they were actually burned into the ground, creating these tunnel systems where the roots were. And there was like manzanita bushes that way, where the leaves were still there, unburned, but with these tunnel systems underneath, they had just fallen over because they burned at the roots.
So how does a microwave do that? Because I was talking to Robert, he was saying is about water, the water in the tree.
So I'm not.
What do you think?
I'm not an expert on this, because there are multiple methods, whether it's microwave, some sort of lasers. I don't know, but when I started looking up directed energy weapons, and I haven't done it, and this was back in 2018, I was amazed at how much technology there was. And the scariest part was there was more at the time that I found more having to do with mind control than this. So there were plenty for doing this, but more with having to do with mind control. So it's pretty scary. So there's multiple different ways, and they're used in conjunction with a lot of things that they spray. So depending on what they're doing, it appeared to us. I'm not an electrician. This is not my field, so I'm speculating. But it appeared that there was some sort of grounding effect, because everything connected to the ground, like tires. The way the tires were explosive, with all the metal in the tires, everything connected to the ground seemed more severe. And again, with the tunnel systems, the ground burning more than the trees. Any fence posts, if you had a barbed wire fence, the wood would only be burned where the wire touched it. Usually the wood fence would burn from the bottom, from where the grass was, and would burn from the bottom up. But these fence posts were fine. It was just where, if you had three different layers of wire, 3 different levels of wire, you burn in those 3 spots on the wood where the metal was touching. So anything that the metal was touching would burn, because the metal was reacting to whatever whatever they were using. The metals were reacting to it.
So have you seen pictures of the Maui fires?
I have seen pictures.
What do you think about that?
Well, here's the thing. They're just definitely not natural, but it's easy to say that now, because they control the weather. I mean, even the wind, you put a lot of wind behind a fire, and a lot of wind, directed wind, you can do a ton of damage with wind directed in a certain area. I mean, you can do a ton of damage with just that. And then if you're accelerating it with other particles or microwaves or whatever, this is all speculation, but we know they've got full control of the weather. So
they do.
I've kind of stopped speaking out about the fires, and I've kind of lost interest in them, because they're, to me, it's just another form of weather weaponization, which they do with everything, where they can steer hurricanes, they can make floods, they control the weather. So this is just one other very terrible tool that they're using, and they're using it all around the planet right now. So So anyways,
Yeah,
I'm
so
not an expert on any of this, and it's all speculating on exactly what they're doing, but they absolutely, anybody can go and look at all these different patents that exist on controlling the weather and manipulating the weather. They are all out there, and they've been doing it for a long time.
yes, absolutely. If you're watching this and you're going, what is he talking about? Please go to standtogetherhawaii.com, look at Maui fires. I have all this information there. I show you there's actually an act, and I think it is, actually, I'll look it up right now. And it's, because there's a the Directed Energy Weapons Act. So let me see here. Let me look it up really fast. But the weather modification, there's actually a company that says, you look up at the sky, you see clouds, we see potential. And they're literally telling, they've had this technology for so long. And here it is. Go to standtogetherhawaii.com, and you scroll down, and there's, yeah, Directed Energy Weapons, who benefits, and also the acts. There's two different acts that were passed by Congress, and one was a DO Act, and the other one was a Weather Modification Act. So please go and check that out for yourself if you're wondering what is he talking about. So I think, so when you look at the Maui fires over there, and I want to go into the next part of this interview, which is understanding more about this kind of madness and this, what you said about mind control. We want to take all that information over to Rumble. But is there any last things that you want to say about the Maui fires? And
I feel terrible for the people of Maui and Lahaina particularly. It's just, I feel so bad, and my prayers are with them. The only good thing I see out of this is people are waking up. It's waking a lot of people up, and hopefully they'll understand a little better of they're seeing in live time the response or lack of response from the government, and hopefully they'll have a much better understanding of reality, which is not,
yeah,
it's not good, but of the true situation of things, and then the steps that they can take in the future to make sure that they're not in any way supporting this and contributing to it
that's the thing.
by their actions.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I feel that we are, actually, I know in my heart to be true that this country, that we are under attack, the people here. And so it is really important. If you are questioning anything, please watch the second Rumble video. The link is in the description on this YouTube video, and have an open mind, because all of this stuff that's happening with the transgender, with the grooming of our children, with all the pronoun stuff, that's madness, everything that they're doing is what's called the fourth turning, which is trying to change our society into something totally different than what we are living. And so it's really up to each one of us, if we value human life and the way that we live, we need to take a stand, and we need to see and understand the world that we live in. And it's not what we think it is. When I woke up to this, I fought it with tooth and nail. I had a boyfriend at the time who was like telling me about different things that were happening in New York on the famous September, the date that's coming up. I don't want to use those words right now. I was fighting it. I was like, no way, you're crazy. That sounds crazy. And he goes, Michelle, he goes, I will pay you $100 to watch 1 hour of Zeitgeist. It was a 3-hour movie. And after 3 hours, I was crying like a baby. I literally couldn't get out of bed. I was just like, devastated, because my whole world that I thought I lived in wasn't true. And so I remember that after the third day, I was like, what do we do? What do we do? And there was nothing to do at the time. This was 10 years ago. So then when I came to Hawaii, my family's been on the island for 25 years. I got here in January 2019 when 2020 happened, and I've been a fitness and wellness expert for 22 years. I was like, this is not real. This is something's up. And I started researching it, and then I started sharing, because now is the time to do something now. these questions from a friend of mine who works for the national or with the national security here in the United States, and she's like, send him these questions. So so he's going to be answering some questions. But first, Matt, can you please tell us again one more time about your background so people know who you are?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. So I have 33 total years in the fire service. The last 30 were with the municipal department in the East Bay area, the San Francisco Bay Area. And I had 17 of those as a fire captain, paramedic. I traveled all over the state during my career, fighting large vegetation fires. That were some of the biggest at the time, 30 to 50,000 acre fires, which are very small in comparison to the ones we've had over the last 5 or 6 years. But at the time, they were the biggest. And so I have a lot of experience in dealing with these large conflagration fires.
Yeah, and you also had one by you. You're close by you, one of these fires. So what does this here? Let's see here. Okay, have them explain how the protocols for a fire investigation are done. Timeline for the event, for an event of this size. Do you know about?
So yeah, I'll tell you what I know, and there's a lot I don't know. So usually, like in California, Cal Fire will take over and be in charge. They'll be in charge of everything. So they have their own investigators that will come in and investigate. An investigation really should be going on by all employees during the fire. But, you know, anybody that I've worked with, I've never really heard. I've heard a little bit, a few people waking up a little bit, but most people are being told that these fires are really bad because of climate change. I mean, that's the narrative that we're being told. So, but yeah, they have their own investigators. When you said event, that's a good word because that's what they use. On the Tubbs fire, which lasted a few weeks, about a week or so into it, they had the ending date. So just so you know, when they already knew when it was going to end. These are events. Once they get going, they're events. They turn into events with an ending date. And just like you would do any event, you'd have an ending date, a starting date, an ending date. So, and what I'm about to say is not totally bad, but it's just, people should know that when there's a fire that happens, these are opportunities to burn areas that haven't been burned in a long time. And they use these opportunities and they manage after the main, like with the Kincaid, there was a Kincaid fire that came here a few years ago after the Tubbs fire, and it did total devastation over the first night. It just blew all the way to almost to the ocean. And that fire went on for a couple of weeks because it was being managed. And both fires that were near my house, they made it clear, they had showed where the boundaries were, where they were going to stop it. And they were going to burn both of them through my property. And so I didn't want it to burn through my property, but I understand I'm out in a remote area and there's not a lot of houses out here, and it would be easier for them just to have that all burned and then they're done with it. So these are managed. These fires are managed once they get going, and good, bad, indifferent, that it is what it is. They manage these fires, and they knew they had an expiration date for the Tubbs fire, an ending date. They had an ending date at least a week, more than a week out of when it was going to be over, which I thought, oh my God, they know they're going to, have the fire out at this date, which just proves that they manage them.
So, who is they?
Well, the Cal Fire and the management of the operation, whoever agency they're managing them, whatever operation it is. I mean, they become big operations, and they have multiple mutual aid, whether it's the Red Cross, FEMA, whoever helping them with it. It becomes these big events, and they manage them, and they decide where they're going to let burn and not let burn. And they're not it's not an all hands on deck at that point, just trying to put whatever's burning out. They decide where they're going to let these burn to and where they're going to stop them, because once they're going, then it's easier people just think, oh, that's what the fire did, when a lot of times they could have just gone in and stopped it, but they've chosen to let it burn further. So there are opportunities there. It's an opportunity for them to allow things to burn where maybe they want them to burn.
Got it. Is it feasible to run a valid investigation when evidence has been rifled through by the public visiting the sites, touching and moving stuff around before the investigators arrive on the scene?
Well, the investigation will be compromised, but if there's evidence of, like with the Tubbs fire, I mean, there was no evidence left. Everything turned to power, but that is the evidence. That was the evidence that there was nothing left.
Yeah.
So it's always worth looking at the evidence, and you always have to consider whether stuff's been handled or not, but there's still evidence there, whether it's been handled or not.
The other fires, has anybody else put up a big old screen and blocked drones from flying over the burned area? That's what they're doing in Maui.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm, well, they do block out areas while the fires are going. They do block out, but after they're done, I'm not aware of that. After the fire's out, I'm not aware of that. And that, yeah, it's the first I've heard it. But while the fire's going, absolutely, they will not allow drones or whatever in there.
Yeah, but afterwards, so you have never heard of any area that's been screened off and no drones allowed and no planes allowed over. So they've literally taken away the First Amendment. People should be freaking out. They're violating our Constitution.
Well, I mean, if it's a crime scene, maybe you could justify it. If it's a crime scene, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries. No, I just wondered about the
I'm not
screen.
sure what the protocol is for a crime scene of having. I could see an issue with allowing drones over a crime scene potentially, but I don't know. It doesn't seem right to me from what I can see. But
yeah, they're not using this as a crime scene. They're not doing an investigation as a crime scene. They're still saying it was a normal fire, and they violated the First Amendment, not allowing media in. No drones being flown over, and a complete huge screen wall so people can't even walk. They can't see anything. They're actually, if they stop with their car, they could be arrested for an emergency proclamation, which is not a law. This is the thing people have to understand. This is not a law. You can stop. If they arrest you, you take it to court, those are gonna get more than likely gonna get dismissed because it's not a law what they're doing over there. But let me get to the next question. Do you recommend immediately following a flame out access of owners and or representatives equipped with proper PPE, which you probably know what that is, I don't know, and essential measures to be seen?
I think you're asking, PPE is personal protective equipment. I strongly believe in property rights, and that's your property. And if what I saw up in Paradise was people were kept weeks from their property while their utility companies were in there. There were crews cutting trees down. If there was any evidence they want to get rid of, they had weeks of getting rid of any evidence before the homeowners, the property owners could get in there. And to me, that is not right. I understand if there's a danger, then maybe you sign a waiver or maybe you put on some personal protective equipment, but it's not right. It is not right. They're normalizing this, that do what the government says when they say that they're the boss. And no, we the people are the boss. And unless you can show me imminent danger, the government works for us. And that's what we need to switch. The government works for us. The crews that are there cleaning up in Maui, they should be working for the people there in Maui and doing what the people want done, not blocking the people out. So, and until we get that straight, until we straighten that out and stop funding these agencies that are doing this to us, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, I agree with that. Next question. Several hotspots were noted on Maui. At least 37 fires broke out in one day. Is it feasible for this to be natural?
If 37 poles went down and you had that much wind, and it's possible that, but just the wind and where it was directed, what a coincidence where it was just directed in that one spot. It doesn't anything, I won't say it's not possible, but it doesn't look there's nothing natural looking about the videos that I've seen. There's nothing natural, especially when you have boats out on the water that caught on fire. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's not
Yeah,
natural.
they say, but I've had people write to me, well, Michelle, it was the embers. The embers went and flew across the water and caught the boat on fire. What would you say to that?
Yeah, no. I'd say no, that's not correct. I mean, if it was one boat that actually happened to amongst the 100 other boats that didn't happen to, they could be, well, that was a freak thing. It just happened. The Emperor happened to land at the right spot, and there no, maybe that could happen. But to all the boats, no. I mean, you had what it looked like to me. I saw it. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's the Lahaina Luau, a thatched roof building that's still there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I saw a video. It looked like a video. I don't know if that's correct or not, but it looked like, you know, that's pretty amazing that the thatched roof building, the Lahaina Luau, didn't go up. Well, all these other buildings went. I don't know. I don't even know where its location or whatever. But if
Yeah, I'm not sure the location
that
of it.
stood out to me as being very strange. Um,
That's a big one. That's a big one. And then I was talking to Robert, and we were talking about, because I was wondering, I was like, well, this fire is hot. How come it's not burning these trees? And he was saying that the chemistry of the fire. But what would you say to that?
Well, yeah, exactly. They're, to me, they're not acting like forest fires or grass fires, vegetation fires. Um, these fires do not look natural at all. They with the amount of the trees that are left over that are left there, while these buildings made of concrete, cement, stucco, tile, whatever. Yes, there's combustibles in there too, but the way the ones that burned so badly, and other stuff around didn't. It's, it doesn't match up. So when
So
we talked about directed energy weapons possibly being for the Paradise fires, it kind of seemed like we were kind of out there, and now it's like common. Everyone's talking about. I hear so much about that. It seems like it's it's not far out there at all, and people, it's like obvious to so many people now that these are not natural.
so when you take an energy like that, because the fire has a different chemistry if it comes from a frequency like that versus a wildfire. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, 100% right. It's just like a microwave. Microwaves burn from the inside out. The trees were burned up in Paradise from the inside out. There was much burning under the ground where there's no oxygen, there's no heat, it's cold, there's no oxygen. So there was it was almost like a reverse lightning or something. There's some grounding component. And so again, with all these different technologies, there's probably a multitude of things going on at once, because like in Paradise, that's my conclusion. There's multiple things going on at once between the melted smart meter didn't put something that did that. That's like a pulse of energy, probably through the wiring or some direct connection with the smart meter, whatever. That's different than whatever got the roots and the trees in the middle. That's probably something different or some other. So I think there may have been multiple technologies going on at once. But again, I'm not an expert on this, but we saw multiple smart meters where nothing was burned around them, but they were melted. And so that
Wow.
more than one. So
Well, this goes to the next question. How can fire reach temperatures to melt glass and incinerate metals?
again, microwaves would explain all that. If we have enough wind and it's directed, it's possible. It's possible with the wind and the right conditions, you can get temperatures really high with being wind driven, but it's not likely. I mean, I've saw pictures of these two cars in the field up there where they're completely burned up with it. And yeah, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen like that. So
Yeah, on a wildfire.
yeah.
A ring. Oh, and then I was going to pull this up, but I didn't. A ring of fire photo. There's a ring of fire around Lahaina. So it goes down, it comes up, and then there's a ring that goes right around Lahaina, and then it burns. It just burned the whole place down. Is that normal to have a wildfire do a ring around a city, a town like that, or
No.
around? Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, not at all. Fires burn out. Fires don't burn in. Fires start in a spot and they burn outward. So they will burn like that. They'll burn outward, and you'll usually have what's called a head. So if it's a wind-driven fire, wherever way the wind's driving will be pointed the most. So it'll be whatever the direction the wind's going, that's where the fire is going to go the furthest. But then on the sides, they will be going outward slowly, not as fast as where the wind's going. And so they burn out. What you're describing is it was surrounded and burned in. And again, coincidence. If we believe this is all just perfect coincidences, then we're very gullible. It's obvious to me that this was not just all the perfect storm. I mean, I saw videos, I've seen enough eyewitness testimony where the people were blocked from leaving, where the water wasn't turned on, where the sirens didn't go. So we had all these other things that, no coincidence in the people's favor. Every coincidence or everything happened was against the people. And so I don't believe that was all just bad luck.
Absolutely not. Why were things that were painted blue didn't burn? Why were things that are blue not burning?
Well, this is something that again, I was just watching some videos and saying that, there's certain frequencies that won't burn blue or maybe even white. So, and that looks like that may have something to do with what's going on. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but that's just what it looks like from what I've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, great. If citizens were to get samples to test for accelerants, what is the protocol to collect evidence? And is there a lab that could run tests?
I would get a hold of Mike Adams at naturalnews.com and send him. I know he's got a good lab and he could probably tell you exactly or do as good a job as anybody at telling you what's in the specimen. If somebody were to get, that's where I would probably go to start with.
Okay. And do they just scoop it up? Is there a certain protocol to get it?
Yeah, I mean, if you can video yourself getting it, video the whole thing, and then try to have the chain of what's called chain of title, put it in a Ziploc, make sure it's secure, so nothing else is getting into it and it's not getting contaminated, and then date it, whoever took it, and if you can video the whole process, that would even be just more evidence you can have. The better it's, the more strength you're going to have. If you can show this is where I took it from this spot on this day, and this is what, and videotape when you do it, put in this bag, sealing the bag up, writing your name and you took it, and then sending it in to get it and say, hey, give me the makeup of what this is.
Okay, great. What environmental risks happen in burn areas? What should people be concerned with?
Well, there's going to be a lot of contaminants. There's going to be trip hazards, obviously, a lot of sharp objects. Things can see, there could be places where you walk where you think that it's ground and you can fall through because it's ash. So you have to be very careful. Be very careful walking around. You can see easily a ton of trip hazards, a ton of holes that you won't maybe look like holes that you can fall through, and contaminants. There's contaminants. It's a contamination site. So just I would say be careful and wear some good sturdy shoes, some protective clothing, and just be careful.
Is there anything toxic wise?
Yeah, absolutely. Because everything that was there, it's still there. Everything that was there is still there, but now it's in the ground. It's on whatever. It's all been. So yes, the stuff that was under the kitchen sink or in the garage or whatever, it's still there, and stuff is melted together, so it changed form. So you just have to be careful. Yes, and wash up. Wear gloves. Wear gloves so you're not touching stuff with your hands.
So this is the last question she has. Based on the photos you've seen in Maui, is it feasible that white phosphorus or thermite, and I don't know what thermite is, were used in the Maui fires?
Again, there's all speculation. I know they've told they found thermite after So I think anything's possible. The way that burned, I think anything's possible. But I don't know. I'm sorry. I couldn't, I don't
No
know.
worries.
So.
No worries. All right. Well, thank you so much again. Any last thoughts on Maui? And if you're watching this, please go to standtogetherhawaii.com for action steps. We're contacting our representatives and our state senators. We want the mayor and Maui and who, if you haven't seen the other videos I've done, the mayor of Maui actually increased the emergency funding for Maui from 3 million to 40 million in April. That's what he did. He's not answering any questions about where the children are. There's 2,000 children that are missing. Where are they? And the parents, where are the parents? Like, I don't see any videos of parents going, please pray for my child, or anything like that. So I've heard that there's buses that are missing from the schools. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if bus drivers are missing. I don't know anything about that. But I do know that there are children that are missing. They've said 115. Do you think, Matt, do you think with a fire like this, with no warning sign in the middle of the night, that there's only going to be 115 people dead from the fire like this in a town of thousands?
No, I'm amazed still when I hear that there's 2,000 kids missing, but the numbers only stand at 115, the official numbers. And I wonder the same question. There's a huge disconnect. And I would imagine where's all the, I mean, maybe somebody could post do something. I'm not a tech guy, but it seems like it would be great to have a posting somewhere where people could go if you're a relative of someone and they're missing, where you could play, hey, so I haven't so-and-so lived in this area and I haven't heard from them. And so we get a list going because so we know, because I don't know. I don't know if that exists already or not, but how do we know?
Eric West. Yeah, Eric West of Aloha Real Estate. He has something like that for the children. Are
Great.
you safe? Putting your name in there, or I'm looking for this person. So that's a great idea. Great feedback
It
for
seems
that, for
like,
sure.
sorry, it seems like, yeah, if there's
No, right.
2,000 people missing, that would be okay. Well, then who's their family? Who are their relatives? And just start going down and figuring it out. And who are their parents? And it seems like I'm a little surprised there's still this question. And if they're missing, then, and the relative said, yeah, they should have been there, then they're gone. I mean, so anyways, I don't
I
know.
know. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so again, standtogetherhawaii.com, we have actions for you to take. Even if you're not living on the islands, you can take these actions. It's contacting our representatives. It's making a stand. It's saying, hey, we're not going to let these Maui fires just go off to the wayside because time is passing and we have to get back to our lives. We have to remember this was the worst fire in the history of these islands, and I think in the United States. I know we have the same, it's very interesting that we have the same police chief who was in Vegas for the worst shooting in America, leaving many questions unanswered. And now he's here. Not only did he get here to do and is working on this investigation, or not even investigation, because that's another thing, but he got a 30% pay raise here while he got here, and he's the coroner. He's not supposed to be the coroner, but he is the coroner. They need to hire a different man, a different person, man or woman, as a coroner, and not have it be the police chief. That's an issue. And also, if it's true, and I've heard many testimonies that it is true that police were blockading people from exiting and leaving into safety, that's murder. So he should be investigated for murder if that is the case. So that is my stand. And if you're watching this, standtogetherhawaii.com. Captain Matt, so grateful for you for speaking out. If you're a fire person, if you are an arborist and you want to speak out, please do so, because the more people that do, the safer we all are. And Matt, I just really appreciate you and your time.
Thank you, Michelle. And thanks for what you do. Thank you.
Please click over to Rumble and watch the second part of this video.